Before we get into this wild ride, go ahead and drop a comment with where you're watching from. I love seeing folks from all over. And hey, if you can't stand folks like Karen, you know what to do. Like and subscribe. Grab a snack, settle in, because I'm about to tell you a story that's so nuts if I hadn't lived it myself, I'd swear it was a B-grade Netflix drama. But I swear every word is true. This was supposed to be the happiest, most peaceful week of my life. Instead, it turned into a nightmare of blackmail, sabotage, and vengeance so petty and obsessive it redefined what neighbor from hell really means. It started with my dad, our backyard pool, and the neighbor everyone in Serenity Grove whispered about Loretta Peterson, though most folks around here just called her Karen. The day kicked off like one of those perfect July afternoons in North Carolina where the sun's so bright it hurts your eyes and the air's so thick it practically drips off you. My wife Chloe was finally catching a nap upstairs. Our newborn Amaya was sleeping, and for the first time in weeks, the house was calm. My dad Arthur had just driven down from Virginia to meet his first grandchild. He was this larger-than-life ex-cop, a guy with the kind of old-school dignity that makes you stand up a little straighter. Seeing him in my backyard, cradling my daughter with those big calloused hands, yeah, I almost lost it right there. That afternoon, I basically shoved a towel and a cold beer at him and told him to go relax in the pool. He'd more than earned it. I remember watching from the kitchen window as he leaned back on the pool steps, just soaking up the sun. He looked completely at peace, like a man who'd finally outrun all the sirens and bad memories. I wanted that moment to last forever. But then you know how it goes. The universe never lets you get too comfortable. Next thing I know, I hear this shrill, angry voice, the kind that could turn milk sour at 50 yards. "Excuse me. Excuse me." I look out and there's Loretta halfway over the fence in her lemon yellow dress. Phone in hand, face twisted up like she'd just sucked a lemon. She's the HOA's unofficial patrol, always carrying either a citation form or some garden tool like she's expecting an ambush from a rogue weed. My dad, bless him, sits up and says, "Polite as you please, can I help you?" Loretta doesn't even blink. She's not asking, she's accusing. "Who are you and what are you doing in that pool?" "This is a private community. You can't just be here." Dad just sighs, holds up his beer and says, "Ma'am, I'm a guest of the homeowner. My son." But Loretta cuts him off. "I don't believe you." She's already thumbing her phone, making a show of calling 911. "There are suspicious individuals trespassing," she says, her eyes locked on my father. Yeah, you know exactly what she meant by that. I start for the door, ready to set her straight, but Dad stops me with just a look. He's calm, almost too calm. 40 years as a cop, and he's seen this scene 100 times. He's dealt with people who call the cops not because something's wrong, but because they want to feel powerful. So he just sits there, king of his little blue kingdom, while Loretta paces her yard, phone glued to her ear, looking like she's about to call in the National Guard. 10 minutes later, longest 10 minutes of my life, 2 officers roll up. The whole street's watching from behind their curtains. Loretta hurries over, pointing at my dad like she's just uncovered a Russian spy. "Thank God you're here. He's trespassing." She uses my last name, trying to sound like she's protecting the community, not just flexing. The younger cop, Miller, walks up and asks Dad to get out of the pool and show some ID. Dad doesn't move. "I'm not going to get out," he says, cool as ever. "My name's Arthur Vance. Staying with my son Leroy. You can run my name." The air goes cold. Loretta's practically vibrating with excitement, waiting for him to be dragged out in cuffs. The other cop, Daniels, calls dispatch and runs Dad's name. There's this long silence, just the cicadas and Loretta's heavy breathing, until the radio finally crackles. Suddenly, the energy shifts. "Be advised, subject is retired Chief of Police, Richmond PD. Highly decorated." You could see the shock hit Miller. Their whole posture changes. Daniels, almost stammering, now apologizes to Dad, who finally climbs out of the pool, dripping water everywhere. "You were just doing your job," he tells him, "but maybe talk to her about abusing 911. The look on Loretta's face when both cops turn on her, pure open-mouthed horror. Miller tells her loud enough for the whole neighborhood, "If we get another false call, you'll be cited." She just glares, then vanishes into her house, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. That should have been the end, right? But nah, I saw the fire in her eyes as she disappeared. That humiliation didn't satisfy her. It just lit a fuse. Next few days, we tried to laugh it off, called it the pool incident. But the tension settled in like humidity. Suddenly, there's a formal letter from the HOA, improperly stored trash cans, then a noise complaint, then an official warning about unapproved garden ornaments, Chloe's grandma's gnome. It was so petty, it was almost funny until the complaint about our baby's crying came in. Please consider soundproofing. Soundproofing for a newborn. That's when I realized this wasn't just a neighborly squabble anymore. It was a slow burn campaign. Dad warned me, she's not moving on, son. She's a grudge holder. People like that, they never get over being embarrassed. Loretta wasn't content with calling the cops. She wanted to make us miserable death by 1,000 paper cuts. Every day a new letter, a new warning, a new icy glare from her window. She never spoke to us, but you'd hear her on the phone just loud enough. Some people have no respect for the rules. Chloe, sleep-deprived and already overwhelmed, started jumping every time the mail arrived. Even our marriage felt the pressure, tiny arguments, more stress. It was working. She was isolating us, making us feel like outcasts in our own home. Then came the first twist. My dad got a package. No return address, postmarked from a nearby town. Inside a yellowed newspaper clipping from 1998. The headline was about a breakthrough in the Dockside Strangler case. My dad's name circled in red. In the margin, one word: exposed. That was Loretta's play. She dug into my father's past, found the biggest, messiest case of his career, a serial killer he put away decades ago. But Dad confides in me. I protected a witness by keeping his identity secret. I did what I had to do to keep his family safe. But if someone wanted to twist it, they could make me look like a dirty cop who hid evidence. Here's where the bomb drops. The Dockside Strangler, Alistair Finch. After my dad put him away, Finch's family disappeared. His daughter eventually married a man named Peterson, moved to North Carolina. Suddenly it all clicked. Loretta wasn't just some bored neighbor with a grudge. She was the daughter of the man my dad put away, the man whose arrest destroyed her life. This wasn't just about pool rules. This was a multi-generational vendetta. Things escalated fast. Loretta started leaking rumors, reaching out to local bloggers, feeding them just enough truth to make the lies stick. Then one morning my dad calls. She sent me a photo. It's of the informant from the Finch case. She's threatening to expose him. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. She was endangering a man and his family who'd spent decades in hiding. Dad wanted to handle it quietly, calling in favors from old friends, while I wanted to go nuclear lawyers, restraining orders, lawsuits. We clashed big time. Our relationship strained. I felt abandoned. He thought I was being reckless. All the while, Loretta just kept winning. She was dividing us as surely as she'd isolated us from the neighborhood. But I couldn't just sit and watch. I started digging into Loretta's life. Turns out her late husband, Robert Peterson, was no ordinary accountant. He worked for a money laundering firm that the Dockside Strangler did dirty work for, meaning Loretta's crusade was fueled by her late husband's secret files, his insurance policy against anyone coming after the firm. She thought she was holding proof of my dad's corruption, but really she was sitting on evidence that would incriminate her own husband as a handler for her father's crimes. When she finally went public, dropping a hit piece on my dad through a local blog, painting him as a corrupt cop who framed her father, the internet mob lost its mind. Neighbors started crossing the street to avoid us. Even old friends turned cold. But here's where the tide turned. My dad's old police friends, detectives, lawyers, tech geniuses, they rallied. They dug up proof connecting Peterson and Finch. Ledger entries, witness statements, autopsy reports, all pointing to Peterson as the real criminal mastermind. They found the skeletons Loretta never knew she had. So we set a meeting, a neutral conference room, just the three of us. My dad laid it all out. You've been aiming your anger at the wrong man. Your father was no victim, and neither was your husband. When he told her that her husband was her father's handler, that he'd married her as cover, not love, her whole world just collapsed. She sobbed, realizing everything she'd believed was a lie. Her dad wasn't framed, her husband wasn't her savior, and her crusade was built on sand. Dad offered her a choice. Destroy the files, retract the lies, move away, and the truth stays buried. Or go public and we take everything to the DA. She picked up her briefcase, nodded, and vanished. Days later, the smear article disappeared from the internet. A week after that, her house went up for sale. And just like that, the storm passed. Serenity Grove was quiet again. But the victory was hollow. Peace returned, but not the innocence. I look at my neighbors differently now, wondering what secrets they hide behind those perfect lawns and friendly waves. My bond with my dad is stronger than ever, but now I see him as a man, not a mountain. Someone who's fought hard, made impossible choices, and still stands tall. And every time I look at my daughter, I get it, the ferocity, the need to shield your family at all costs. So yeah, that's what happened. Would you have confronted Loretta, gone straight to court? Ever been caught up in a mess like this? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because if there's one thing I learned, it's that you never really know what's lurking just over the fence.